About 2 years ago, maybe three, someone said to me, racism doesn't exist like it did in the 1950s. Has it sunk in? I have a friend of color who has been stopped by the police and questioned for no apparent reason while she was in the car with her kids. I have a friend of color who consciously thinks about how he is going to act when he leaves his house in case he is confronted for no other reason than the color of his skin. I have a friend of color who, this year, had personally experienced 2 occasions in 1 week of hate crimes against her and her father. Her father, by the way, is a Vietnam vet. Her comment regarding these incidents was this, and I quote, "The sad fact is, we both have practice dealing with this. We know how to get out alive." Unquote. This is real. This is happening to people we know. But racism doesn't exist like it did in the 1950s. I have experienced racism towards me once, in my entire life. That one time was 26 years ago. I am 48 years old. To be honest, I really don't even remember the details of the incident. It was one blip on the radar screen of my entire life. My point is this. I have no idea, none, what it is like to have to deal every day with the possibility of being discriminated against because of my skin color. That is the real-world definition of white privilege. If you do not think white privilege exists, you are either ignorant, you are in denial, or you don't care. Ignorance can be fixed if you take the time to educate yourself. But you cannot deny that white privilege exists, and you damn well need to care. If you whisper, people can't hear you. If you speak, people choose not to listen. If you shout, people will turn away. The only option you have is to take action. Colin Kaepernick kneeled in front of the American flag, and his action could not be ignored. He started a movement. But instead of being acknowledged by white America, he was excommunicated. There are too many people who did not take the time to see the point Colin Kaepernick was trying to make. Listen to me. Don't just hear me, listen. Kneeling in front of the American flag was never intended to be a sign of disrespect to our nation, to our armed forces, or to our first responders. The point of kneeling in front of the American flag is to make people take notice of the blatant and latent racial injustice that has been occurring in this country. The point of kneeling in front of the American flag is to openly acknowledge that the stars and stripes deserve due deference. And in front of the ultimate symbol of our independence, we are demanding change. The American flag is supposed to be the greatest symbol of freedom on our planet. But not every American feels free. Last week, the very same person who told me that racism doesn't exist like it did in the 1950s made a comment, and I quote, "If Joe Biden is elected, there will be civil war." Unquote. Donald J. Trump has spent the last 4 years empowering racial hatred. The riots you see are happening under his watch. The hate crimes you see happening are happening under his watch. A true leader brings people together. Trump has done nothing but stoke the flames of disparity and conflict. He has empowered those who embrace racism and made racists feel safe that they can openly flaunt their hatred without repercussion. Trump riled up a group of people who he knew he could woo into voting for him by using the myth of a disenfranchised white middle class. That's right, it's a myth. How do I know? Look at me. I have firsthand experience. Under this gray stubble, under this ink, there is white skin. I am part of the white middle class. I grew up in a single-parent home. I had a deadbeat dad who had to be chased constantly by domestic relations to send a child support check to my mom. I served our country. I worked my way through college, and the paycheck that I receive every 2 weeks is a paycheck that I earned. I have not been disenfranchised, and neither have you. Any opportunity that I did not take was because I chose not to take it, not because I was white and pushed aside. You use that myth of a disenfranchised white middle class as an excuse to overlook or deny your own shortcomings and to compensate for an unfounded fear that you need to protect your white fragility. Quick question. What did the reality check with 5 fingers just say to your face? Slap! Reality hurts. True reality hurts, doesn't it? Donald J. Trump's strategy worked once. We did not let it work a second time. We, the people, did not let it work a second time. Love trumps hate, and love just trumped Trump. Right now, we are living in the midst of a turning point in our history, and we cannot waste this opportunity. We have to push forward and change the paradigm. We have to push forward so everyone has an equal opportunity to breathe. No lives matter until Black Lives Matter. All my wife and I can do is raise our daughter to believe in equality. And maybe, just maybe, her generation will finally get it right. Because our generation, our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, every generation that has lived here since our ancestors landed on Plymouth Rock has been screwing it up. Okay, look, I realize this is just my opinion, and I'm nobody. I'm not important than you. I'm not important than, more important than anyone else. But I am constructively angry enough to go through the hassle of recording a video and stumbling through my words and posting it to social media. Because I want us to change. And I don't know any other way to try and keep our momentum of change going. You can share this if you feel it is worthy of paying forward, or you can ignore it. You can approve of what I have just said or not. If you do not approve of what I have just said, you may unfollow me or unfriend me. I would rather you reflected twice on your own thoughts and feelings and ask yourself if your heart and your mind are in the right place. Here's to peace. Imagine all the people